In front of me we have the River Pride, the females, and the little cubbies are in and out of the bush. It's quite sweet. There's some banded mongoose running around as well, so seems to be a bit of commotion going on back there. But yeah, anyway, welcome to Sofatography. It's a good name, we're going to stick with it. It's a little bit cheesy, but that's what makes it work, right? So this morning we're going to be focusing on a couple of different items that basically came from questions that were posed by you guys. And the first question I'm going to deal with is well, a very similar question that came from both Megs Donati and Sonia Holtman. Ladies, you were asking about the comparison between a Sigma 150 to 600mm, a Tamron 150 to 600mm, and then the various Canon and Nikon counterparts to those lenses. So I'm going to show you those in a short while. Hopefully these lines stick around so I can take photos of them with the different lenses. And then Paul Wayman and Sarah Packham, you guys were asking, and there were a few others, but you guys were asking about the weight limitations as far as flying is concerned, and what bags we can possibly use and how we pack and so forth. So those are going to be the two trains of thought for this morning. So yeah, stick around, let's see what the morning brings. For now we're going to see if we can get into a better position to test out these lenses for you all. So there will be a little bit of time spent at the computer where I show you guys what those photos look like, and we're going to try and make it as fair as possible. It's not always the easiest thing to compare different branded lenses on different cameras and so on, but we'll do the best we can. So yeah, lines have moved on. Let's see if I can get a better view. So we've got into a beautiful position with all these lines, and it's almost turning, it ran the risk of turning into an episode of Sofa Safari, but we're going to keep up with the photography. So as you can see, I've got a smorgasbord of lenses in front of me over here. I've got the Nikon 80-400, which is Brit's daily shooter. This is a fantastic lens. It's a prosumer lens that Nikon makes, but for Megs and Sonia, if you are shooting Nikon and you are looking for a bit of an upgrade, this is a fantastic lens to go for. Then on the Canon side, for now I have the 100-400. This is Dale Jackson's lens. You can see it zooms out like that. It's the Mark 1, so it's the original one that kind of pulls out as opposed to spins out. So, and I always liked that when I used to use this lens, and when I did shoot Canon I was on this lens. It's an amazing lens. Just with all Canon lenses, you know, they like making them white. You need to stand out, but yeah, it's a beautiful lens, and if I was still shooting on Canon I would be super happy with this. Then next up we have the Tamron 150 to 600mm. This is the original, the G1 if you want to call it that, and I think Sonia, Megs, this is the one that you were most sort of asking about. When I first seriously started getting into wildlife photography, this is what I bought, and it's an incredible lens. I mean, 600mm, that's crazy view, you know, zooming right in on those lines, nostrils and so on. So yeah, it is a great lens, and Sigma makes a very similar lens to this. So yeah, if anyone has either the Tamron or the Sigma counterpart, I'm sure you would have noticed by now that the images that come out of it are amazing. The only thing that you might lose is a bit of light, but then again, all of these lenses, they have variable aperture, so that means as you zoom out you lose more and more light coming into your image. But for those of you that are a bit lost on that, I'll explain when we get to the episode that covers aperture, shutter, you know, all these things that you've heard in the photography jargon world. And then lastly, what I have is my professional 200-400. This is a very expensive lens. You can see when I zoom it, the barrel doesn't move at all. We spoke about it the other day. Please forgive the camo once again, it's looking a bit tatty, but it protects a very expensive investment. So yeah, it's always got the information. All these lenses do just there, it tells you what it is and so on. But yeah, this is a phenomenal lens, but it does cost probably in the region of about $4,000 or $5,000, and it's getting pretty old now too. So what we're going to do, got one lioness. She's still standing or sitting quite still. So what I'm going to try to do is take a photograph with each of these lenses. And obviously there's some Canon lenses and some Nikon lenses, so it's a bit hard to make it completely fair. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Nikon D810 with the Nikon lenses, and then the Dale's Canon 5D Mark II with the Canon lenses. So at least we're using the same Canon body and the same Nikon lenses for their respective cameras for their respective lenses. So yeah, let's see how they do. Once I've got a few shots, hopefully of the same thing sitting still, we'll get back to the computer and we'll have a look at the differences. What I'm going to do is, for argument's sake, I'm just going to shoot these all at an aperture of 6.3, and I'm going to zoom them full in at 400 millimeters, since they all go to 400 millimeters. And then with the Tamron, what I'll do is zoom it into 600 just to show you how much closer that can get you. All right. Please remember, with the Nikon, this is an 80 to 400, so you can draw back just a little bit more than all the other lenses, which is quite versatile if you want to do a bit of landscaping. And you know, a lot of people go on the whole thing that if you want to do landscape, you need a super wide angle lens, but you actually don't. I do a lot of landscapes with my 70 to 200, so 80 mils is not that much difference. Anyway, let's get into the photography before this beautiful girl moves. First, I'm going to start off with the D810 and the 200 to 400. I'm going to set it to an f of 6.3, and let's see what we get. Right, so we've sat with the River Pride for a while. I've done my best to try and get some photographs, some terrible photographs. So when we look at them at the computer in a few minutes' time, you know, please don't judge me. I had to try and make sure that the lioness was the same distance, that she didn't move too much and things like that. So really what we're looking for between these lenses is sort of sharpness, contrast, things like that. So yeah, they're all starting to go back to sleep now and just relax. What I did is I also took a photograph of a small little yellow flower that was completely static the entire time. So in those photographs you might see a little lion cub or two messing around in the foreground or the background, but at least we can check the detail of all the different lenses there. So I've got two options. So yeah, I'll see you at the computer. Let's go check it out. Welcome to the computer. Not as glamorous as out there looking at beautiful things, but hey, this is where we get to look at the beautiful images that we've taken. For those of you that don't know, this is Lightroom. This is Adobe Lightroom. It is a photo editing software, which we will do a full video on at some point, but it is very powerful, and it is what most photographers use to edit their images and process their images. All right, it is up to you how much you want to process or how little you want to process. It is your art, and you can, you know, don't listen to the naysayers that say, oh, you over edited that image and so on. If you like it, you like it, right? So yeah. Anyway, let's jump straight into these comparisons between the lenses that we played with a little bit earlier. The yellow images that you can see color coded with yellow are the Nikon 200 to 400. The green images are the Nikon 80 to 400. The red images are the Canon 100 to 400. And the blue images are the Tamron 150 to 600 millimeters. All four of these lenses are great lenses. They all come at different cost prices or cost points. So yeah, if you're wanting to save a bit of money, look no further than getting a Tamron 150 to 600 millimeter or a Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter. Believe me, you'll be very, very happy. If you want something with a bit better build quality and will last you a bit longer, but quicker focusing, all those good things, then maybe look at getting the Canon 100 to 400 or the Nikon 80 to 400, as those are the two competing lenses there. Anyway, let's jump straight in. What I'm going to do is jump to the develop module. For those of you that don't know what that means, don't worry, we're going to get there in the next few videos. Anyway, so let's compare some images. What I'm going to do is select that image first and compare it. So what we have on the right hand side is the Nikon 200 to 400, and then I'm going to bring up the Nikon 80 to 400 there. So this is Brit's lens and that's my lens. Let's zoom in on them and have a look. You can see straight away Brit's lens did a superb job, even though it is a third the price of the lens on the right hand side. And this is where technique comes into it, guys. It's not always about the gear. Gear does play a big part, but you also have to be focused and know what you're doing. However, both lenses did well where you look at the focusing where it nailed. However, that 80 to 400 is really proving its price now. You know, it's a lens that's a third the price. It's incredible. So there we go. That gives you some indication. For those of you that are in the Nikon fraternity, you really do not have to buy a big professional lens unless you're going to start taking photography very seriously to a point where your gear will be in the rain, in the dust, all sorts of things, because that's where the pro lenses really shine. They're just built like absolute tanks. But yeah, 80-400 and the 200-400 there. Beautiful, this 80-400. I'm a bit jealous, I'll be honest. Anyway, let's move on to one where we can compare 3 images. So what I have here, let's bring up the Nikon 200-400 on these sleeping lions, and then the Nikon 80-400 on the same sleeping lions. He didn't really move. So yeah, let's zoom in on him. This is the 200-400. This is the 80-400. And here you can see that the 200-400 really excelled in that better lighting. It gave better contrast. It just all around captured a better image. And up here, we shot all these images on aperture of 6.3. And if you don't know what that means, don't panic. We'll get to a video where I explain all of that. You're going to be a wizard with your camera when you're done with all of this, with this series of mine. But yeah, there we go. Good indication of what we're dealing with. But I'm going to start ignoring the 200-400 now, because it is a pro lens. It's a very expensive lens, and it's not really a lens that I'm going to recommend to anybody because of that. So yeah, let's take him away, and let's bring in that 80-400 primarily over there, and then let's bring in the Canon 100-400 there. So you can see, I mean, these were shot at basically the exact same exposure, so it just shows you how Canon and Nikon do things differently in terms of their color science and so on. But yeah, there we have the Canon 100-400 and then the Nikon 80-400. So you can see the Nikon does produce a brighter image, a more colorful image, I guess, if you want to be pedantic. But the Canon, to me, looks a little bit sharper. And I am definitely no Canon naysayer, although I shoot full-time on Nikon cameras, or Nikon for our American friends. Canon does produce some incredible lenses, guys. So if you're with Canon, please don't feel the need to jump ship to Nikon or to Sony or to whatever. The gear you have is incredible already. So if you're looking for a better lens for wildlife photography, do yourself a favor, get a 100-400 if you can afford it, and you'll be done with it. You'll be happy. Yeah, you can just see a lot more detail and so on coming through in the Canon. But yeah, incredible how vastly different the two images come out. But yeah, as for both of them, if you're in Nikon and you're looking for an upgrade, go for it. If you're in Canon and you're looking for an upgrade, go for the 100-400. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the Tamron attached in time to shoot these sleeping lions, because they promptly got up and mated, therefore ruining the opportunity. But I was happy to get the Canon and the Nikon next to each other there. So yeah, pretty chuffed with that. Let's now move on to the flowers, because that was static. And what I'm going to do is bring in the Tamron flower first of all. Let's bring him on the right hand side, and then we will bring the Canon flower in on the left hand side. So let's zoom in 1:1, 1:1. Sorry, you can see, sorry, this is the 600 millimeter. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, this was shot at 600 millimeters. So let's bring in that image there. Okay, so there's the Tamron over on the right hand side, and there's the Canon on the left hand side. You can see the contrast difference that the two lenses produce, but overall the sharpness is very similar to each other. Both shot at f6.3, both at an ISO at 500. So yeah, both incredible lenses, guys, and the Tamron is half the price, if not less, than the Canon here on the left hand side. So yeah, there we go. Let's now bring in the Nikon 80-400 on the right, and I will bring in the Canon on the left. So there we go. Let's zoom in on the Canon, let's zoom in on the Nikon, and have a look again at how these two companies do things differently. So yeah, you can see they're both rendering just as much detail as each other. They're both on an equal footing as far as I'm concerned. That the Nikon is maybe blowing the highlights there a bit, which is losing a bit of detail. But with Lightroom, what I can do there, just to give you a quick snippet, is just drop the highlights and you can see more detail comes out there. So there are ways and means to get that information back, and this is why we shoot in RAW. But that's a story for another day. So yeah, there we go. Guys, I hope that helps you in understanding or deciding which lens you would like to go with in future. And please just take it this way. If you are looking for a great wildlife photography setup, get yourself a great or good Nikon, Canon, Sony body or Fuji body, and then look to each one of those brands, sort of 100-400 or 80-400 millimeter lenses. And if you want to save a bit more money, get that Tamron or that Sigma 150-600 millimeter lens. You will not be let down. Anyway, let's head back out to the vehicle. Let's chat about some bags and how we get those heavy bags across the world, because it is sometimes a bit of a mission. But yeah, let's jump back out into the bush. All right, so there's nothing like a good riverbed to stop and do a bit of videoing and explaining all the things about photography. Now, we had a couple of questions throughout the week from Paul Wayman and Sarah Packham as far as flight restrictions and so on and so forth. But before we move on to the flight restrictions and the weight restrictions, I want to show you guys a few of the bags that you might come across in order to keep your camera stuff safe and to actually travel with all your camera stuff. So without further ado, I've got 4 bags to show you, and I'm going to start off with, whoa, there we go. So here's bag number 1. This bag belongs to Mr. Dale Jackson, who some of you may remember from that horrible lip caterpillar he had a few weeks ago, and also from doing Sofa Safari Kids, where he did the plaster of Paris with them the other day. This is Dale's little bag, and as you can see, it's a great little backpack. It's what you would go to school with if you were still in school or if you still are in school, but it's got a few tricks to it. For one, you open up the back like this, and it's a camera bag. So you have a look inside. It's got all these nice pockets, things for you to put your lenses into, your cameras into, your memory cards, your chargers and so forth. And it's got memory cards up here where you can slot them into. So yeah, great little bag, and something that you can definitely fit a camera body with one of those 100 to 400 millimeter lenses on, which is a fantastic setup to go on safari with. And then don't forget, as long as you have your phone with you, that 100 to 400 will get you the great zoom, and this will get you the nice wide angle and a little bit of footage. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on to bag number 2. Geez, like the power of videography makes these bags so much bigger suddenly. Anyway, this is Brit's bag, and you can see it's a lot bigger than Dale Jackson's bag, but that's because she has a lot more equipment. However, it's also got these nice big straps, a big waist strap to help you do a little bit of hiking. This is not the most comfortable bag in the world, but it does do the job. However, it has loads of pockets like this. It's got a laptop sleeve, it's got a tablet sleeve, it's got, I don't know, every other sleeve you can imagine inside here. It's also got some neat little pockets on the front. But then the nitty-gritty of it is when you open up like that, and you can see everything that Brit has inside. Obviously we've taken it out, but the big 400mm lens goes here. She's got a 24 to 70, got a couple of power banks that we've left in. You know, these are very handy if you're going on safari, by the way. Keep your phones charged and your cameras charged. And then we've got the F to Z adapter, which we'll get to at some point in time. But yeah, you can see most of these camera bags, if not all of them, have these beautiful compartments that you can take out and readjust and do what you'd like to do with them, depending on what equipment you have. She's also got this little bag that slots beautifully inside there. I'm very jealous about this as far as my bag's concerned, but you're about to see that. And then also some pockets over there and some memory card pockets. And remember, all the bags that I'm showing you right now are 100% hand luggage legal, so they will fit in the overhead compartments on your planes. It's just up to you to keep them inside those weight limitations, which we'll get to in a short while. But yeah, let's move on to Mr. Chad Cocking's box. There it is, Mr. Chad's box. So as you can see, Chad's box lives a hard life. It's got a bit of bird poo on it, Chad. You need to clean your box. I thought I'd leave that on there just so you guys all see this is a wildlife photographer's equipment over here. It lives a hard life. This is what we call a pelican box. You can see it over there. These boxes are fairly expensive items to buy, however a lot of these bags are, but this is a box that you can actually check in to the proper luggage compartments on your planes. I would not advise that still, but they are very hardy and you can lock them. They've got a little pressure seal over here and some big old clamps that you can undo like that, and you just open it up and you have all this beautiful foam that will guard your stuff. It's also inside here. Chad's got a few things in here. He's got one of these squeegee things to keep the dust out. He's got a couple of lenses in here. Hell, Chad's even got a toothbrush in here. You never know when you're going to need a toothbrush out in the bush, so why not have it? But yeah, there's a torch. Torches are very important to have when you're a photographer. So yeah, very good box to have. It can take quite a bit of stuff. It's not as compartmentalized as the other bags that we have here today, but phenomenal job that these things do. So yeah, that's the Pelican box. Next up, we're going to move on to my bag. Now, hi there, buddy. Nice to see you again. I've had this bag for about 4 years now. It hasn't let me down once. You know, with a lot of these things, sometimes the zips go because you're using them a lot, but that's the only thing that's really broken on me. Easy to fix. If you buy one of these low pro bags, which just about every bag we're showing you here today is a low pro, but there are other bag manufacturers like Think Tank and so on that you can look for. But yeah, my bag is a little bit more suited for hiking, so it's got big straps again, a big waist belt, it's got these breather channels for your back, it's waterproof, it comes with a waterproof jacket just to add extra waterproof, because why not? It's also got this pocket at the front that allows me to put a camelback inside, so that's also water sealed. And then it's got a tripod bracket on the side here if you want to travel with your tripod. And then at the back you unzip it and voila, there we go. I've got my compartment set up there, so I've got my 200 to 400 millimeter lens that lives there, my 70 to 200 mm lens that lives there, my D850, my D810, and what I also keep is this little microphone, just in case I do a bit of filming, which is not too often. I usually leave that to the professional that is my wife, named Britt. So yeah, got to get a few browning points there. But yeah, it's also got some memory card slots there, another sleeve over there. So yeah, all round a great bag, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. However, I am a little bit jealous of Brit's bag. It's got a laptop sleeve, it's got a tablet sleeve. It's just a little bit more versatile if you're going to be traveling around the world. This is nice if you're going to be hiking some mountains and you still want to get all your gear there. But yeah, let's stop chatting about bags now and talk about those questions that Paul Wayman and Sarah Packham and a number of other people asked as far as weight limitations, how you get onto flights, and how you can deal with your heavy photography gear, or how you don't have to deal with it at all. So yeah, let's do it. When 53,000 hectares is your backyard, you tend to try and find new scenes whenever you need them. And so we have come to Impala Dam to check out the view and to explain a few things about international travel and domestic travel within South Africa. So to get to those questions, what I did was I broke it down into your international flights, domestic flights, and then lastly the charter flights, which are those small little planes that are usually Cessnas, you know, the 4-seaters, or maybe up to the big caravans, the 12-seaters, that land at our airstrip, which is just over in this direction here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the international flights first, and basically all I did is I went and I did a bit of research and I compiled a list of what the most popular airlines are and what the best airlines are to use as far as getting your heavy photography gear and your big bags and hand luggage across or to the other side of the world. And what my research showed me is that there's two airlines that photographers should focus on more than the others, if you are able to, of course. The first one is Delta, which is for our American friends, but they do fly from elsewhere in the world. Now, Delta has an incredible no weight restriction or no weight limit on their hand luggage, which is crazy. I mean, sometimes my camera bag here can weigh 13-14 kilograms, so to have no restriction on that is incredible. You do have to bear in mind that you need one of these bags that I just showed you, and that's because they fit through that little Pyrex cutout that they have on the conveyor belt. So as long as it can fit through there and you're on Delta, weight restrictions shouldn't be an issue. However, I do ask that you follow up with Delta Airlines because their policies do change, just like all airlines. The other airline that I found, funny enough, was BA for our European friends, or our English friends, British Airways. Now they also fly from a multitude of places all around the world, and BA allows you 23 kgs of space, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's like, as I say, my bag, which I have just over here, is 13-14 kilograms, so I can carry almost two of those bags when I'm flying on BA. However, they only allow you to take one bag or one hand luggage and then one laptop bag or handbag. So 23 kgs, that's incredible. The two other airlines that I checked were Emirates, because a lot of people fly Emirates, and Emirates will proudly state that if you're flying business class, you're allowed 2 hand luggage bags plus a laptop bag, and each of those hand luggage items is allowed to be 7 kgs. So that's 14 kilograms in total, which is pretty impressive as well, but you do need to cough up for that business class ticket. So if that doesn't sound like something you would like to do, the economy class gives you 1 hand luggage, 1 laptop, and I think the limit is 8 kilograms. So yeah, not so great on the economy side. KLM, which is the Dutch Airways, is very similar. They allow you to have 1 hand luggage, 1 laptop bag, and 7 kgs is your limit. So you have to be quite clever about how you book, when you book, and who you book with. So yeah, just check it out. But if you have any further questions on the international flights, you're more than welcome to drop me a message and I'll get back to you. Moving on to the domestic flights. In South Africa, we have a number of small carriers, low-cost carriers that you're bound to use if you fly into Joburg and you need to get to Cape Town, or if you need to get back from Cape Town to Joburg or here to Hoedspruit. We have things like Mango Airways, which is a cool name. We have Kulula Airways, which is another cool name. And these guys are, as I say, they're cost-effective, so they don't use the biggest planes in the world, but they do allow you to have 1 hand luggage and 1 laptop bag of about 7 kgs each. And then you get something called SA Express and SA Airlink. Now, SA Express makes use of various little planes, different planes, depending on how many people have booked to go on that route. And so on their website, it stipulates that you need to get in contact with them once you've made your booking to see how much hand luggage you can take, which is a little bit of a hassle, but yeah, it's there for you to use or not. And then you get SA Airlink, which is, they service our local airport quite often, and they also allow that sort of one hand luggage, one laptop, and I think they allow 8 kgs per person. So yeah, not too bad there. So, sort of similar to the international flights. However, what myself and Britt have found in the past, what we do is we'll mix and match our bags. I'll put some of the heavier stuff in her bag because hers is a bit underweight, or what she'll do is take one of the lenses and put it into her handbag and carry it around very carefully just to make sure that lens doesn't take a bump or anything. So there are ways and means for you to move your luggage, your equipment across from your bag to your partner's bag and vice versa. Use handbags, use man bags, whatever you want to use, a satchel. So yeah, think about it that way. Lastly, we have the charter flights. Now there's a few companies that service this area, and as I say, they land just at our little airstrip, which is just behind me here, and the main company is Federal Air. Now Federal Air has nothing to do with the federal American government, but yeah, their name's Federal Air, and they make use of very small planes. Once again, it depends if it's a small group, if maybe one of those small 4-seater Cessnas or a 12-seater Caravan. It really just depends how busy the route is, and they have quite serious weight limitations. They only allow you to have 2 bags, one duffel bag which you check into the cargo hold, and then one hand luggage bag which is not allowed to be any bigger than 5 kgs. However, what I found in the past is these small airlines, it's not a commercial airline where they're just chucking your bags into the back of the aircraft, just trying to get everything in there, and your camera stuff getting thrown around or whatever it might be. With these smaller airlines, it's very often the pilot or even you that sometimes puts your luggage into the cargo hold, and it's really just a box underneath the fuselage. So I feel very confident to put my camera bag with all my gear in it just safely inside that compartment and take it out when you arrive at your destination. So think about it like that as well. They do have to be quite strict because of their small flights and their weight restrictions and so on. Yeah, maybe get in contact with them if you want a little bit further information if you do plan to charter, or get in contact with us and maybe we can help you out. So yeah, that covers the international, the domestic, and the charter flights. And what Britt's going to do, if she hasn't done it already, is put up on the screen just all those breakdowns for you, just so you can pause and make notes yourself. But yeah, hopefully that helps you. For Paul and Sarah and a number of other people that were wondering the same thing. How do you get to these places with all your heavy gear? And that's how you do it. Alternatively, there's a few companies in South Africa that rent camera gear. So, and they rent probably the exact same setup that you're using at home. So think about it like that. You can just arrive here, you can book the stuff that you would like. I mean, there is a bit of paperwork that's involved, there's insurance issues, there's identity issues that are involved, but if you get that all right, what they can do is you make your booking, they ship it to us, and we have it ready and waiting for you when you arrive at Tula and check into your tent. So there are various options to get your stuff across, or to just leave it at home altogether and rather just have it rented here. So yeah, I hope that answers everyone's questions. Just to keep you all updated, next week's episode will be all about computers. We'll talk about laptops, we'll talk about desktops, which are just vastly more powerful. We'll talk about the age-old rivalry between Apple and Microsoft, or Windows and Mac systems. There really isn't much of a difference anyway. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the software and what I use is Lightroom. So if you have any questions pertaining to those subjects, please feel free to drop it in the comments below, and I'll have a look at that and we'll try and incorporate it into the next video. And as I say, for any of you that know a little bit more about photography and want to try help out with the community and interact in our comment section on YouTube or Facebook, feel free. I mean, let's make this a community effort where we all teach each other just how to go about capturing wildlife as brilliantly as possible. But until next week, I hope you've enjoyed this week of Sofa Photography. Enjoy, guys. Bye.